Hello, and welcome back to another segment of Focus SPS. I'm Azelle Kavan, Chief Communications Officer for Springfield Public Schools, and thank you so much for joining us yet again. We have a very special guest with us today, the Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Daniel Warwick. Hello.
Hello, Azelle.
Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
We're very excited to talk with you all today and bring you up to date with some new information about things that are going on in the school district. Specifically, we're going to talk about our most recent Mcat Scores and some other very important markers or indicators that tell us how the district is doing as a whole. So why don't we get right to it, because there's a lot of material to talk about.
Sure.
Our latest Mcat Scores showed some big improvements for our students in some big ways. So let's get right into it and talk about that.
Yeah, sure. Very excited about the improvements our students have been making over the last 3 years. And our goal has been to narrow the performance gap between Springfield Public Schools and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. As you know, most urban centers have more difficult challenges relative to academic achievement, and all urban centers score below the state. So for the last 3 years, in all 3 subjects, English Language Arts, mathematics, and science, Springfield Public School students' gains have exceeded the state gains, and we're very excited about that. That's a goal I have for the district, and it was great to see that. So for the last 3 years, and again last year, our goals exceeded the state gains in all 3 subject areas.
Now, when you say the gains, that means specifically the performance improvement 1 year over the next?
Performance improvements
okay.
one year over the next. And there's 3 different indicators. The key indicators are what we call academic proficiency and composite performance index, the overall indicator.
Yep.
And in both of those areas, our improvements, again, exceeded the state improvements over that time frame.
Great.
So very pleased and very grateful for the outstanding work of the principals and staffs at every school in getting those gains. I think some things that are noteworthy within those gains, our elementary school gains continue to exceed the gains in other areas, the elementary schools and the high schools. Now, last year, the 10th grade MCAS was administered in all the high schools, and as most people know, in Springfield and throughout the Commonwealth, schools had a choice between the Park State Assessment or MCAS. All of our 10th graders took the MCAS, and this reflects their results. And 60% of our schools took the Park, 40% MCAS. But again, like the elementary schools, the gains at the high school level, the 10th grade, which all of our high schools took, our gains, again, significantly exceeded the state gains. And not just overall in the aggregate, but more importantly in all of the subgroups. So over the last 3 years, our gains in the special ed subgroup, the English language learner subgroup, the Hispanic subgroup, and the African American subgroup have again exceeded the state gains within those subgroups. So in all sectors, the improvement is there for all of our students, and I'm really excited about that.
That is great. So what I'm hearing you say is that overall, the district as a whole has seen some great improvements, and then within that category, there are these other buckets or categories of students that make up that whole, and those are also doing great improvements.
Yeah, and we're really excited about that, because if we only lift the overall results, but hypothetically our English language learner group is lagging behind, I don't think we're really successful. So it was really gratifying to see that those gains actually exceeded the gains overall. So I'm really excited about those results.
That's great. Now, I know that there's a lot of work that goes into making these gains possible. You already talked about the principals and the teachers, but there's some systems that have been put in place, and you talked about the English language learners and the work that the teachers are doing. So this doesn't just happen happenstance. It's very strategic and calculated as to how the teaching takes place.
Yeah, I think it's a process in every school. We have purchased the services of Achievement Network. We actually give data cycle testing with Achievement Network, making sure our students are achieving the benchmarks. And when they're not, we make sure we're setting up supports for them to get the instruction they need to attain those skills. So it's a very, it's hard work, it's a thought out process, and that work is being done very well across the schools. I talked about the elementary and the high schools. Our middle schools continue to struggle, as most middle schools in the Commonwealth, especially the urban middle schools.
Yeah.
And we did something exciting this year. We formed a partnership with Empower Schools, which was part of the turnaround in Lawrence, where they've actually had significant gains. And Lawrence, Springfield, and Holyoke are the three highest poverty school systems in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Through their partnership with Empower Schools, they have made significant gains. So I'm really hopeful that the gains we've made overall and at the elementary and high school level are going to move into that middle school sector now that we've got together with this partnership, put together a completely separate contract, extended time for our students, extended supports in the schools, tied into a lot of grants, and brought in some national partners to improve the work in those schools. So I think you're going to see next year improvements in that middle school level as well.
And we already are seeing some improvements at the middle school level with math.
Yeah, we've had some gains in math, especially in 6th grade. And we put the matched tutorial program in, which has been successful throughout the country. They had some very good work done in Lawrence, actually, with matched tutorial, and in Chicago. We took a look at that program and brought that into our middle school level and showed some significant gains in mathematics because of that. So that's encouraging.
That's great
and then
news,
some of the other partners we're bringing in, I think, are going to make a significant difference at the middle school level.
Great, great. And of course, students need to be in school to learn, and there's some good news around our attendance rate that is probably really helpful to having these Mcat scores become so improved.
Yeah, we've had a concerted effort for the last several years on attendance, including putting attendance officers and working with correctional officers on the streets every day, getting our kids back in school, but reaching out to parents and families in the community to talk about the importance of attendance and encouraging good attendance. And I'm happy to report that our attendance level last year, student average daily attendance was at 93%, the highest it's ever been in the city of Springfield. So
big achievement.
We've had gains every year. We've had significant gains at elementary, middle, and high school levels. And again, the attendance is the highest it's been. It's not where we want it to be, but it's the highest it's ever been, and we're moving in the right direction. And again, I think every staff is reaching out to families every day on kids who are out, making home visits, making calls to the home, engaging the parents in the process, and things are moving in the right direction there.
That's great.
And along with the attendance, the truancy, which is also a problem, is down to 3.2%, which is the lowest truancy has ever been in the city of Springfield. So again, that's hard work by the staffs at every school, our attendance officers, the cooperation of Sheriff Mike Ash that helped us put cruisers out on the streets to make sure that kids are back in school, and providing supports at the school level and at the district level for students who have been disengaged with the educational process, and trying to get them back involved in some different ways, like put them in credit recovery programs, online learning, things like that, that might be a better fit for them.
Yeah, and I know the work that we do with the Sheriff's Department coming in is they have been really great partners in that they don't work in a punitive sort of way, but they are more of advocates for the students. They've become friends with the students. If they see a student who is on the street during school hours, you know, they will go over and talk to the student. They're not from a disciplinary point of view. That's
right. There's no arrests made here. The interest we have is getting the kids re-engaged at school. So sometimes it's assisting the student back to the school. Sometimes it's to our attendance recovery center to engage them in different ways with some counseling staff and support staff. And some youngsters we actually set up an alternative program for if a general program isn't working. So it's, again, finding a way to re-engage the student. It's not punitive in any way.
And I know that one of the ways that we kind of measure the climate inside the schools is by the number of disciplinary actions that happen, suspensions and those kinds of things. And there are some programs that have been put in place that focus on positive behavioral interventions, and it seems like there have been some good results from that on the suspension news.
Yeah, our suspension rate, our out-of-school suspension was down 28% last year. And it's very important to put programs to be proactive to help students. And two programs we've had a great deal of success with is Positive Behavior Intervention Supports, PBIS it's known as, Dr. Shagai's program out of UConn. And that program has made a huge difference in a lot of schools, focusing on the positive, but again, putting supports in for students and families that need some supports around the behavioral system. Another program is City Connects. This was a partnership with Boston College and actually setting a social worker up in every school so that they can work with students. They've put a plan together for all of our students and actually put supports in for students and families that need help in many different areas. And thousands of different supports were put in place for a lot of our students in the schools that have City Connects, including a lot of clinical interventions. A lot of our poorest families don't access the kind of mental health services and clinical services they need. So the entire family is getting the support they need, solving some of those issues and allowing the child to really engage in learning. And that's made a big difference in the schools that have engaged in that process. So I think some really great programs are taking hold. And what's a result of that is our arrests are less than 50% of what they used to be in the schools. Our external suspensions are down. Our disciplinary incidents are down. And therefore, our kids are engaged in learning. And that's the goal.
Right. And the overall goal with everything that we've been talking about is obviously to get students in and graduate them. And there is also some news on our graduation rate, which is heading in the right direction.
Yeah, you know, our graduation and dropout rate have been a challenge in this city and quite frankly, again, all urban centers.
Nationally.
And over the last few years, we've put a lot of programs, again, proactive endeavors to improve that process, all the way from pre-kindergarten, putting pre-kindergarten in place for our kids so that they will succeed in school in the long term, but up at that high school level, doing some things differently. We put 9th and 10th grade academies, small learning communities in place at all of our high schools to help with this whole graduation dropout issue and re-engage students, where teachers are given common schedules, common planning time so they can plan together. We're providing extra counseling support for students who are entering high school but struggling and need extra supports. Based on that, our 9th grade retention rate, which was a significant problem in the system, is down considerably. The kids are being promoted, moving through the program successfully. And over the last few years, our graduation rate has increased from 54.6 to 61.6%. Not where we want to be, but the largest increase in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And our dropout rate went down from 10% to 7.2% over the last few years.
Good news.
So that's a 28% decrease. So significant improvements, again, not anywhere near where we want to be. But clearly the programs we're putting in place in the high schools, along with credit recovery, are making a difference in all of the high schools. And we're actually sending our counselors out to houses, make home visits to re-engage students, and opened up our re-engagement centers. And in addition to the re-engagement center, we actually run 9 different alternative programs to find a way to engage students who need a different approach, and a large high school maybe isn't a fit for them.
Right. So there are a number of initiatives and results that we just talked about here today, and I hope that our viewing audience learned something new and found out. I think the message that I'm taking away is we are moving in the right direction. Not where we want to be, but certainly making great strides to get there.
Yeah, and our improvements exceed the improvements that are being experienced across the rest of the Commonwealth. So I feel good about the direction we're moving in.
Yes.
And I just want to congratulate our outstanding staff for their great work in the schools day in and day out with our kids.
I think that's important information. You know, sometimes you don't get to get this word out, and it's important that people know that our students are working hard, our teachers are working hard, and our parents are engaging in ways that they haven't before. So Springfield Public Schools is definitely, like we keep saying, headed in the right direction and focused on graduating students who are ready for college and career.
Yeah, I mean, our whole focus now is this whole college and career readiness. You know, you were talking about what's led to the academic improvements. We've actually changed our entire curriculum to come in line with the Common Core, focusing on higher order thinking skills, literacy skills, which we know are going to help our kids become college and career ready. Because we know in the state of Massachusetts and across the country, one of the big challenges, students graduating from high school, but then after they graduate, they have to take developmental courses in college that don't count for credit and are not moving through college like they ought to be. So that's the challenge in the future, and we're working and put things in place to improve that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Isabel.
Thank you all for tuning in for this bird's eye view of Springfield Public Schools, and stay tuned to this very channel where we will have another SPS Focus episode coming up for you in just a few short weeks.